Hello, everyone. Hi, how are you all? Oh my gosh, so much love to you. Thank you so much for being here. What a joy to connect with you today, this beautiful and very sunny Sunday. It is the 7th of August, so one day before the 8/8 portal. So that means that we are fully in that space already. There's lots of messages that I've been receiving that I'm asking for a little bit of assistance from my wonderful angelic and seraphim friends to broadcast in a really succinct way. And it's my intention that you hear something which resonates with you, which helps you uncover more of who you are, more of your truth, your wholeness, your wealth, abundance, love, bliss, joy. We've just gone past the first quarter day, Lunasa, which was on the 5th of August. Many people celebrate that on the 1st because of the Gregorian calendar, but actually the arc of the sun is how you measure, these particular points in time. So from solstice to solstice, there is an arc of the sun. And then Lunasa, which was on the 5th, I was at Stonehenge for. Many of you have seen the photographs that I posted and the light language, little light language attunement I offered. It was very powerful to be there on that day. Every time I go to Stonehenge, which is quite often, every time I lay there on the ground, on the earth, on the floor, receiving the initiations, the key codes, the messages, the upgrades from the Fae, the star beings, the angelics, all these beings of light who are assisting us in this wonderful process that we're going through, this recreation of the earth as we wish to truly see it in our highest light. And I was sat there on the morning of the 5th, watching the sunrise. And I was looking into the sun. I like to do that, gaze into the sun, have that direct communion with that energy. Now, it's very poignant because right now, our sun is in alignment with Helios, right? With the great central sun, with the Syrian sun. Now, this Lionsgate, people talk about this a lot, but what actually is it? Lion's Gateway is an initiation from the Syrians and Alirans and Orion. There's all that alignment there happening. But what does that actually mean? Well, we're going to go into that in just a short moment. But first, let me finish with Stonehenge, because I visited the Stargate of Stonehenge this week. Then I felt guided to go to Silbury Hill, which is a known landing spot for messages and for beautiful beings of light. Some people call those ETs, various different messages come in through that plane, because originally, before the churches, that would be a plane where lightning would strike. Now, lightning is known for initiation and vice versa, right? Lightning is always connected with initiation. What it actually does is it fertilizes the earth and the soil, right? Lightning, it splits the nitrogen atom, pairs it with oxygen, and then you get nitrates, which fertilize the earth. So naturally, there is this pathway that goes to a highest point. And Silbury Hill was often used for that, right? So not only just receiving messages, but the pathways between the skies and Silbury Hill, or any high point, has been used for various things through time, one of which being, lightning rods and receiving that energy to help fertilize the land, to make it abundant, because it's natural that would happen. And I say before the churches because they all put metal spires in a stone building, so the lightning would hit there instead. It's quite interesting. But the reason why I say that is also because Silbury Hill, it's known for this point of meeting for the light beings, the star beings, because of all these, because energy, electricity, it carries, it's already a pathway that's already presented itself, right? So I went from Stonehenge to Silbury to then Avebury. And it was a wonderful little trinity of sacred connection. And what I received from those sacred stones, earth, places, portals, was very much about our 12-strand DNA and things that we've perhaps been missing about it. Because this is what's what we're working towards, right? Like without even realizing it, the earth, she is ascending, and we are part of the earth. Our bodies are part of the earth. Now, the 12 strands of DNA, the perfected human template, right? We're working through that in many different ways, but also each of those strands not only connects to what some, say is a different chakra, a different energy point, but they also connect to different constellations, right? And I was receiving this because I always wonder about a particular allergy that my body seems to have, this reaction to a particular thing that my body seems to have. And no matter how much clearing of past lives and karma and reprogramming of my cells we do, it seems that I haven't yet fully cleared it. It was really reassuring to hear that it'll clear this year, but actually what came through is that it was a particular DNA strand linked to the energy from another constellation, which my body just hasn't yet been able to anchor into the earth. Like, it hasn't been able to anchor into my body. And I found that fascinating because it was a Lyran strand. And I connect with the Lyrans quite a bit. And I found that so fascinating because I was like, well, I connect with the Lyrans. How can it not be, how can that be a reaction from my body? And I was being told, or the message I received was that the energy is coming through, it's a bit too high currently for your particular body, but it will adapt and it'll change because your body is cyclical like the earth. So as the earth continues to rise, so will your ability to hold this energy without it sparking out and causing a reaction within your physical body. And I just found that fascinating, so I thought I'd share. But anyway, let's get right back to it here. Lionsgate is initiation. It's a massive time of manifestation, magnetism, abundance, all these things. But we've also got this super full moon in Aquarius coming up on the 11th or 12th, depending on where you are in the world. It's like a pressure cooker for everyone. It's like a pressure cooker. Because whatever your truth is, whatever your soul wants to do, if you've been procrastinating, which sometimes we do without realizing it, and you'll have heard me say this many times, we've got many different voices within us. We have that of our higher self, right? Of source, our soul. We also have our consciousness. Our consciousness is formed usually by the inner child, by the wounds of our inner child. It's the programs that we have. We can reprogram that, of course, but it's its own thing. It comes with the body, right? It's the loudest voice within us oftentimes, and it just carries on. It's like a continual record in the background. It just carries on, that consciousness. So we have to train and practice letting our soul voice, letting our higher self voice be the louder voice. So there are many that are feeling this conflict right now without realizing it, and we know this because of how we respond, react, and are triggered, the fire that we might feel within us, right? This is how we know if there is conflict within us, because our soul has momentum. Our soul is creating something amazing, but we're not fully up to speed with it yet. So what happens is we feel anxious, or we feel depressed, or we feel like very reactive, very angry, things like that. That just means there are certain things that are coming to light within us, within our consciousness, that is ready to release and evolve. But the consciousness will always want to hold on to it. If you are someone, and I'm just going to put this in here, but if you are someone who is wanting a bit of extra support with that, I do have 2 weeks of live one-to-one available. This week, I think I still have 2 evening slots left on Thursday and Saturday, and then we've got next week as well. But there is a very powerful initiation that I'm offering right now called Soul Contract Acceleration Sessions. So if that calls to you, please feel very welcome to have a look on my website. I'll make sure it's linked in the bio below or at the top of Instagram or wherever you're looking, but just go to aliceheath.com. Have a little nosy. But what's being offered in this Lionsgate way is 2 types of initiation, one for our masculine energy, one for our feminine energy. Now, the masculine energy is activating in the solar plexus and the crown, right? So what is happening is these are both receiving upgrades. This will look individual to you, but some of the themes that will be occurring, some of the things that you may have already noticed with this initiation that we're receiving. So the crown upgrading, that's a lot of conflict in the mind, right? That's a lot of kind of anger in the mind coming through. That's polarity showing up, okay? So we've got the sun, our sun, in Leo, which is receiving all this light from the great central sun. upgrading us on a solar plexus level. So our discernment, our power, our will, the ability to be this warrior for the light, for the peace, however you wish to phrase that, so that you're not pulled and triggered left, right, and center. That solar plexus is wanting to be able to discern and create in the knowing that it is whole and sovereign and has all that it needs, and that it is an energy point. It's where this the Dancian is, right, in Tao, which is where the energy point is. So like anytime you see any of those monks who, like, you know, men or women of steel, you know, they've really harnessed this energy which is between the solar plexus and the sacral, right? That's their powerhouse. And that's like, it's martial arts for the inside of you to do something like qigong, to practice and strengthen that, and then your body will protect itself, right? So actually focusing on maybe picking up a practice such as qigong, which will help you strengthen that solar plexus, is going to be very beneficial right now, and something which is highly recommended to continue on with. But the solar plexus is getting an upgrade, so is the crown. Let's talk about the crown, because this is super important. Sovereignty is being called into question by ourselves, the voice of our soul and our higher self, in contrast with our consciousness, our current consciousness, which is built up of that of the collective and that of our individual experiences of this lifetime. The consciousness is incredibly stubborn. It also wants to argue, because there is no doubt that we are sovereign, we have power, we have everything that we need within us. No one has authority over us, but the consciousness might know that, but it doesn't embody that. So we might find ourselves wanting to vocalize it. Let me give an example here. Let's tell first a little story. When someone has a lot of power or influence, naturally they just have it. They have a lot of respect. People respect them. They don't go walking around shouting about that respect, but shouting that people need to respect them. Saying to others, I'm respectful, respect me. To anyone with a perceived authority, you should respect me. They don't go saying that because they don't need to, because they've embodied that power, that knowing. They know it through and through. But someone who knows it, yet hasn't yet embodied it, hasn't brought that embodiment down through the cells of the body to really anchor into the earth, they will still want to speak it to anyone who has a level of perceived authority. That could be government, police, that could be anyone. Father, parent, teacher, could be anyone. Now that's really interesting, because we might even find ourselves, without realizing it, playing out scenarios in our mind. Even if we've not been at a particular scenario, we find ourselves kind of, what would I do if I was there? I would say this, 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 and this, and this. If we find ourselves feeling that one, like having that come up, it's actually showing us that there is a split in polarity within us, which there always is, that we're on a world of polarity, but there is an active charge here that hasn't yet been neutralized and embodied and brought to center. So what that means is on some level, there is a wound in the consciousness that is wanting to release, that is linked to a belief that you actually still have, that we still have. It might be subconscious, it might be below the level of knowing and consciousness. We might not be able to see it, but we're being told by this inner dialogue. So for example, one of my friends had a really interesting interaction with someone who was acting on behalf of a company, and that company believed that they had the right to take their property, and the police were there, and the police were siding with these other people with the perceived authority. Now in reality, neither of them have authority over you, but until we know that, we don't speak it. Until we know that, we can't actually shift our environment and our manifestation of physical reality. Now, what was really interesting when I was being told about this, I was like, literally part of my consciousness was like, oh, if I was there, inform this being and this being about this particular law and this particular law that they aren't trained in, they don't understand this, and do they understand this, and let's just get it straight, who is actually in charge here, and kind of all of that. And it was fascinating, because after a few minutes that my mind kind of went off on this tangent, and I wasn't even there, it was nowhere near where I live either, because it was really interesting. And I was just like, I caught myself in this stream of thought, and I was like, Alice, do you really want to create that? And I was like, no, I don't want to create that, because that's what we do, right? When we think something, we're creating that. I was like, do I really want to create that? I was like, no. But then what was really interesting is like, okay, why did my mind want to play that role, though? That role of being the person that is bringing the true justice in, because this is what's being brought to balance in our crown chakra, is injustice of those with authority, right? Injustice of those with authority. So when someone has a level of power, a title, a position, and they don't actually know the law which they're operating under, and they aren't being fair to the people or to whomever, this is bringing up a lot of past life issues for all of us collectively that we're healing through, and not just on this planet, but on other planets also. But I found it fascinating, because with my consciousness wanting to play out that scenario in my mind, if I was there, I would have said this, this, and this in a very calm way, in a very peaceful way. And I was like watching my consciousness. And I just said, I was like, so you're feeling the need to say this because somewhere there must be the role of hero, victim, damsel in distress, that kind of polarity that we see in all the stories, the hero's journey, things like that, where on some level there must still be within my own consciousness this belief that someone else has authority, for me to want my consciousness to be there, for my consciousness to want to be there in my mind, playing the scenario out. That's just a really simple example. It could be something else. It could be with travel. Could be with someone checking your tickets on a train. Have you got a ticket? Could be with someone at a theme park saying, please take that top off because it's got offensive words on. It could be anything. Anyone with an opinion trying to get you to do something because their opinion is a perception, but they think that they have authority. This is what is releasing that crown. But it's important for this initiation to take place and for it to be really easeful and flow, because no initiation has to be challenging. It's only challenging because we're challenging the consciousness that is within the body, and we haven't practiced hearing our soul talk and hearing our higher self talk through us. We haven't practiced giving a microphone to our higher self and our soul more than the consciousness. That's it. And so in that realization that I had, that there was a part of my consciousness that had a point to prove, that felt wounded at some point by someone with perceived authority, because that's essentially what had happened, right? Is my consciousness had believed that at some point in the lifetime of the consciousness in my body, there was an injustice served. So I then got to do some really wonderful inner child healing. I got to go back through my timelines. When have I ever felt this type of energy come up? When has there been situations or scenarios where someone has presided over me, essentially, and governed me without my consent in a way that really impacted my life? Okay, how can I bring that back to my heart, back to oneness, and back to truth, back to love? How can I see that through the eyes of my higher self, through the eyes of my guardian angel? And how can I see all participants in that reality that I experienced in that way of loving forgiveness and compassion? And that's how you heal that. So be aware, be conscious of what's coming up, because it is specifically around sovereignty, around our crown chakra, our ability to receive this light, these extra messages. Because the thing is that with this wanting to shine forth, shine bright, receive extra light, once we heal the blocks that our consciousness is putting in the way, it can then move down into our solar plexus, where we're creating from, where we're manifesting from, which is protecting us, which is, has this wheel of light around us, which gives us the will, the drive, that masculine energy, the horror line, the focus, the lightning. But also the divine feminine is being initiated as well. Now, this is more subtle, and it always is with the feminine energy. And we're going to look to the moon here for this. So over the next couple of years, the North and South Node is Scorpio and Taurus. Now, the moon, wherever your moon is in your chart, that's going to show you how your inner child is going to show up. Right. That's going to show you how your inner child is going to show up. Any inner child wounds is going to be very closely related to your moon and what sign your moon is in, and even what house as well, if you look at the houses. But let's look at Scorpio and Taurus, North and South Node. This is so directly related to the wounds that we're healing collectively for humanity and where they correlate. So Scorpio and Taurus is the sacral chakra, the sexual organs, and the voice and the throat. So over the next year, and especially initiated by this Lionsgate, we're going to be addressing these areas within our body and whatever we personally and collectively have been holding to do with voice, sexuality, true sexuality of yourself. And that's not to do with gender identities per se, because I know that's a big topic in the world right now. That's not to do with that, because that's a mental thing more than a sacral thing. It's more to do with your creation, with your chi, with your Shakti or Shiva, the life force energy within your sacral, within your sexual organs. And whether you have started remembering and practicing practices which will enable you to control and harness that chi. So this is like testicular breathing, ovarian breathing. This is like tantra practices for men and women. But this brings the purity in. This is the chakra, the sacral chakra is where purity is. And purity is simply wholeness, union. We need to have union there to be balanced in our direction forward. So the divine feminine is receiving initiation as well right now in that area. And then that directly relates to the throat. We could be practicing some throat, it's called throat friction in Tantra, where we constrict inside the throat with our throat muscles in different points, different parts of the throat, in order to release any blocks and any energy that's been trapped there. But the more you sing, the more you massage, the more you speak with love, with compassion, the more you offer your throat things that will be nourishing to it. It's going to be very poignant right now because we call creation its being here. So we've got the sun and the moon, the divine masculine, divine feminine energies being initiated. There's so much more that could be said about that, but I don't want this video to go on for way too long. There are so many beings of light supporting us right now, as you know, as you've heard. Dear friend Tim mentioned the other day the gates of Telos opening. He did a wonderful meditation with Adama of Telos and spoke of Lemuria rising and returning. And it's not just Lemuria. The Arcturians, the Lyrans, the Syrians, they're all watching and helping and offering love. The dragons. When I was at Stonehenge, I was in ritual for the sunrise on the quarter day. And the biggest black dragon flew over the portal of Stonehenge. And it was perceivable in my human eyes, not just my inner sights, but my actual human eyes. I could see it. Because we're receiving all these extra upgrades, not just on a physical level, which is how most people kind of talk of ascension symptoms, carbon's crystalline body, but also in our way that we perceive and translate energy. The mystery schools and the teachings, the messages and the teachings that were once very, very hidden are starting to come back to, for lack of a better word, the layman, right? To more people. This is more people than ever have received these teachings before. And it's all based in embodiment and ability to control and to harness the energy within us and to recognize that this beautiful body of light that we have is simply the vehicle. And we need to look after that. We need to take care of that. But the movement and the control over the mind and the consciousness that's within the mind, who we give the microphone to within us, which voice, and the chi being able to move that and not waste that life force energy, which men, believe it or not, you kind of waste a lot of it. And so do women when we have our moon cycle. If the egg is coming out with the moon cycle bleed, that's a lot of energy coming out. But we can actually start to learn how to harness that and store that within. And that's where our true power grows. This is an embodiment practice now. And this is the difference. This is what the year is going to go into as a focus for you. And that look different for each person, for each being, for each man and woman, that look different. But this next year, starting right now with this Lionsgate initiation, is going to be about embodiment. Taking the theory into practical and showing yourself your true power. Because the mystery school doors, they're open. The practical application of universal laws and those teachings have never been so accessible. And if you ever feel called to learning more about those, please feel welcome to have a look at some of the courses I have already on my website. Or please feel welcome to book a one-to-one session, whether that's an hour guidance or a 90-minute initiation, where we can ask about any of those topics and bring through personal, clear messages, practices, attunements, activations, healings, and alignments, specific and bespoke to you. Because that's how I serve her. That and going around to these wonderful sacred sites and bringing in the lights through my physical temple, but we all have a different role. So for now, I send so much love, so many blessings. Those on my email list, I'll be sending an email out in the next couple of days with a meditation from beloved Isis, as she's so present right now. So if you're not yet on my email list, do make sure to subscribe there, because there'll be a short meditation from Isis that will be going out to everyone on that list for this Lionsgate, right? So until next time, I'll see you all soon. So much love.